Hi fashion lovers, you're welcome to another interesting video. In today's tutorial we are going to be learning how to make this beautiful and stylish off-shoulder dress that has a cape, just like what you're seeing on the screen. This is a very simple and easy to go tutorial made for beginners. So if it is something you want to learn, you need to keep watching this video. And if you are new here, you are highly welcome. This is So Style with GB. Kindly subscribe and turn on the notification bell. To all my subscribers, thank you for subscribing. Thank you everyone. Let's get started. To get started, I have my fabric here. I have this beautiful 2 yards of doll face, so I have 2 yards of it, and I have my pattern here. So this is the front and the back pattern, as you can see. So from the front pattern, I measured from the shoulder to the chest line, which is 8.5, shoulder to the bust point, which is 9.5. This is chest line, bust point, and shoulder to the waistline, which is 15 inches. And for the back, I measured shoulder to the chest line, which is 8.5, and shoulder to the back waistline, which is 13.5. So the difference between my front waistline and my back waistline is 1.5 inches, because the front is 15 while the back is 13.5. So there's always a difference between the front waistline and the back waistline. So the next thing I'm going to do is I've taken my neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches, my shoulder slope, and my armhole. So I used my armhole of the normal armhole I make use of, but because this dress is going to be a bit like a sleeveless, like is a bit sleeveless, I'm going to be shortening the armhole, my original armhole, by 1 inch, and that is the reason why I came up by 1 inch from the armhole, and I'm going to reconnect it. So I came up from the armhole by 1 inch, you can see, and this is me trying to reconnect my new armhole, because the dress is meant to be sleeveless and you don't want to use your original armhole, because if you use your original armhole, the armhole is going to be too open for you. So that is why I reduced my armhole. I went up. So if your chest line is 7.5 or 8.5, you can just remove 1 inch, and then instead of marking the 7.5, you mark 6.5. So that is what I meant. So the next thing I did is to mark my nipple to nipple measurement on my bust point and on my waistline, and on the shoulder line you get half of your shoulder measurement and connect it to the bust point, just like you see me doing. So the next thing is to go ahead and mark my shoulder to the under bust, because I want to contour my under bust a bit. So I'm marking shoulder to the under bust. So you want to go ahead and mark. Mine is 12.5 inches. So the next thing is to contour the under bust. You mark 1 inch on both sides of the under bust, so making it 2 inches. Mark 1 inch towards this side and 1 inch towards the other side on the under bust and also on the waistline. Then you want to go ahead and connect it with your line. And from the bust point, you come down by 3/4 of an inch. If you're a bigger person, you can come down by 1 inch, and then you want to go ahead, keep your curve ruler like this and connect this part. Did you see that? So the next thing is from the shoulder, you want to come down by 5 inches, because this is like an off shoulder. This is an off shoulder. So from this line, I came down by 5 inches. You can come down by 6 inches depending on how open you want it to be. And the next thing is to contour the over bust, and for me to contour the over bust, I'm going to be using 1.5 inches. If you are a very slim person, you can use 1.5 inches to contour your over bust. If you are a bigger person, you can use 2 inches to contour the over bust. So towards towards this side I mark 1 inch, and towards the other side I mark half an inch. So from the bust point you come up by half an inch to connect. So towards this side now I marked 1 inch because it's a bit bigger, and I'll flip it to the other side, and towards this side I marked half an inch, making it 1.5 inches for the contouring of this overbust. So this is contouring of the overbust, and whatever you use as the contouring, you are not going to be adding it back. That 1.5 inches, I'm not going to be adding it back. And the reason is because once you alter your basic dress, there is something called gaping. That we took is going to enable us to take off those excesses, so that we will not have gaping on the upper part of our dress. So you want to go ahead and connect like this. So I took 1.5 inches, 1 inch on one side and half inch on the other side, which is towards the armhole side. I took half an inch, and towards the center front I took 1 inch. So on the underbust, you measure 1/4 of your underbust measurement plus the 2 inches for that. And also on your waistline, you measure 1/4 of your waist measurement plus 2 inches for that. Then you want to go ahead and connect. So on the chest line, go ahead and check the dart intake on the chest line, not on the overbust now, on the chest line. And I have the dart intake as 0.5 inch, which is half an inch. I will go to the chest line and add it. For the one on the upper part here, you are not replacing it. It's just on the chest line. Whatever that intake you have, you might have, you might not have. So I have it as 0.5. You add it on your new chest line, and then from that point you go ahead and connect. So the difference between my front waistline and back waistline is 1.5 inches. From the bust point line, I came down by 1.5 inches to take my bust dart. Did you see that? This is the center front and this is the side front. So the next thing you want to do is to take your neckline. So I just, from that line that I made, I came down by half an inch to take a neckline. So that neckline, if you start from the shoulder to measure, is going to be 5.5. So from that line I just came down by half an inch, and that's my neckline. So the next thing is on the shoulder, on the back parts now. You want to go ahead and mark your nipple to nipple measurement, and then on the chest, on the waistline, you are taking half an inch on both sides, which is going to serve as your dart. And your dart is starting from the chest line to the waist line. From the zipper part here, you come down by 1 inch, and from the nape of your neck you want to go ahead and connect. So this is going to take off every bulging effect at the back. So from the waistline, you mark 1/4 of your waist measurements, add the 1 inch that you removed from the zipper part, add it back, and then add the 1 inch for the dart, and then go ahead and connect like this. This is very easy and simple. So the next thing you want to do is to, get the midpoint like this, even though we might not use it. So you want to come down by 5 inches. So I'm not going to be using this line. I want to make it a bit straight like this. So for the contouring of the back, I'm going to be marking ½ inch on both sides of that straight line, of that line that I took up. You mark ½ inch on both sides, and you're going to connect it straight to the waistline. So you can see on the upper part, I mark ½ inch on both sides, which is 1 inch, and that is what I'm going to be using as the contouring. And I took it straight down to the waistline. So for this dart on the back part, we are not replacing it back. This is called the contouring of the back part. We are not replacing it back. And if you don't do this, you are going to have gaping on the back part. So you have to do this so that you will not have gaping on your back part, or your clothes being open at the back, but it's going to be well fitted. So you want to go ahead and slit the dart open to the bust point and close your bust that. Then try to replace this part. And so I want to say that for people that are big, are plus size, instead of taking half inch on both sides for their dart for on the back part, I will advise you take 3/4 of an inch on both sides, making it 1.5 inches for the contouring of the back part. So this is going to enable you to get rid of every excesses at the back. Instead of taking one inch, use 1.5 inches as the overburst, the overburst tightening for the back part. This is for the plus size person, so that your back part will be more fitted. So I've gone ahead to cut the front, so I'll also go ahead and cut the back as well. Note that we are cutting the new armhole and not the original armhole. Please take note of that. So for this back part, you can either cut the dart and have two pieces, or you go ahead and close it like this. So for me, I think I will just go ahead and close it, and this is what I have. You can see the side seam of the front matches with the side seam of the back. So the next thing is to cut out the skirt pattern or the down part of this dress. So I've marked a starting point line, and I'm cutting the front part, and I've folded my fabric into two. So I've marked my starting point line, which is going to be the waistline. From there, I went ahead to mark shoulder to the knee, to the hip line, which is 9 inches, which is this part, and shoulder to my knee, but now not exactly on my knee. I marked 2 inches below my knee, and that is going to be the length of this skirt. I hope you can see this very clearly. So on my hip line, I will go ahead and divide my hip by 4, and I just want to divide my hip by 4. On a normal, you are not meant to divide your hip by 4 because your back hip is bigger than your front hip. But like I used to say, I have a small body, so even if I divide my hip by 4, it doesn't really count. But if you're on a plus size, you will need to divide your front hip separately and your back hip separately. I've made a video on where I talked about how to get your front hip and your back hip. So on the waistline, I went ahead to mark 1/4 of my waist measurement and 1 inch for my dart, and connected from the waistline to the hip line. And what I have on the hip, I remove 1.5 inches, and that is what I'm going to mark on my knee measurement. So let me repeat. On the waistline, I mark 1/4 of my waist measurement plus 1 inch for that. On the hip line, I mark 1/4 of my hip measurement, and then from the waist I connected to the hip, and what I have on the hip, I removed 1.5 inches to mark on the knee. And this is me marking 1.5 inches as the hemming allowance for my knee. And the next thing is that on the waistline, I will come down by 1 inch. I will come down by 1 inch. On the side seam, I will raise it up by half an inch, and then I will go ahead and connect. So the reason why I'm raising it up is because of how our body is, the way the human body is. So the side is usually raised up compared to the center front. So you want to go ahead and cut, and as you are cutting, you add half inch on the upper part for the sewing allowance. So I will go ahead and cut. So when I was marking the hip line, I added my sewing allowance. When I mark 1/4 of my hip, I added 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. And for my waist as well, I added my 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. So you're going to be using the front to go ahead and cut the back. So I'm going to do that off the camera. I will use the front and go ahead and cut the back. So the only difference is that you're going to be adding your zipper allowance. So the next thing is to cut that cape. I don't know if you should call it cape, the cape at the front. So you want to go ahead and keep your fabric in a bias fold Did you see? So when you put it in a bias fold, it's going to be a bit stretchy. So this is me. I've gone ahead to arrange it. Did you see? I've gone ahead to arrange it on the bias fold. So the length of what I'm going to be working with is 45 inches. So you can use 45 to 50 inches for the length of one. For the length of one. So for the height of this cape, I started by marking 4 inches, but I realized that the fabric I'm working with will not be enough because I took half yard of the fabric to do something different. So I took half yard from these 2 yards of fabric that I'm making use of to do a different thing. So marking 4 inches for my cape will not be enough, but if you have enough fabric, I will advise you use 4 inches. So this is me marking 2 inches instead, sorry, 2.5 inches. So what I'm marking now is 2.5 inches. So that is why my own cape is a bit small. So if you want to get the exact length of the cape of the dress you are working with, please use 4.5 inches. Use 4.5 inches. In my own case, I used 2.5 inches because my fabric will not be enough. Sorry, so I was trying to cut it out, my camera went off. So this is what I have after I was done cutting it. Did you see that shape? And the cape is a bit stretchy because it was cut on the bias fold. Did you see? It's a bit stretchy, and this is what you will have. Did you see the pointy edge of this cape? So I'm going to be using this cape to go ahead and cut the second cape. I'll use it to cut the second cape. So this is the front part. Now I've gone ahead to cut out my front part, and this is my back part. You can see my back part is just one piece. I cut out 2 pieces for my back part, and I will go ahead and use my lining to cut out this part. I'm going to use my lining to cut it out, and this is the cape. Like I said, I cut out two pieces of the cape, and this is the back part. I've gone ahead to use the front to cut out the back part of the skirt. I believe by now we all know how to cut out a skirt, the front and the back. So this is the center front, which was cut on fold. You want to go ahead and open it, and the side front was cut 2 pieces, so you want to go ahead and join it on this side. Did you see? Go ahead and join it on that side. So when you are done, this is what you are going to have. So please don't mind the light reflection. So the light reflection is trying to make the dress look another color. So I've gone ahead to sew the main fabric and the lining. So you want to go ahead and place the right side of the lining facing the right side of the main fabric, and you want to go ahead and close the armhole region and also sew your side seam. Close the armhole region and sew the side seam by 1/2 inch. And for the back part, you want to open the back part up and also place the lining, right side of the lining facing the right side of the main fabric, and you go ahead, close the neck, the armhole, sew the zipper side and the side seam. You also want to do the same, sew the armhole, the side seam and the zipper side, all by half an inch. So when you are done, this is what you are going to have. I've sewn the armhole region, I've sewn the side seam for the front part, and then you want to go ahead and turn it to the right side. So when you turn it to the right side, this is what you are going to have. You can see we didn't sew the upper part, the neckline, because we are going to be attaching a cape to it. So for the back part, I've also sewn the armhole, the side seam and the zipper side, and then you want to go ahead and turn it to the right side. And when you are done, this is what you are going to have for the front, the back, and for the front as well. So this is very simple. You want to go ahead and iron. So the next thing is for us to sew the front of the skirt. So you want to go ahead and sew your dart, mark your dart and sew on the skirt part now, mark your dart and sew on the skirt part. I've actually cut out lining for that. So for the skirt lining now, you now added 1.5 inches as the hemming allowance. So on the lining, I'm going to be taking off 1 inch. So this is the lining of the front skirt part. So you want to go ahead and take off 1 inch from the lining part now. That is on the hem part. You take off 1 inch from that lining part. So the next thing you want to do is to place the lining right side of the lining facing the right side of the main fabric. Then you want to push it to the hem part and sew by 1/2 inch on the hem part. So you want to sew by 1/2 inch on the hem part. I'm using my pin to hold it down. So when you sew by 1/2 inch and then take the lining up like this, did you see, to match up with the waistline, then sew the side seam here, and also sew the side seam on this part. Did you see that? I believe that is very clear. So now for the front now, I've gone ahead to sew the front, and this is the back part. So I've gone ahead to sew the so let me just show you what I did. So what I did is that from the waistline I came down by 7 inches, and from the knee line I came up by 8 inches, and I sewed in between. From the waistline I came down by 7 inches for my zipper allowance, and from the hem part I came up by 8 inches for my hemming for my slit, and then I went ahead to sew in between that point. So this is my skirt part. So the next thing is to take off 1 inch from the hem part of this skirt, that is on the lining part now. So you want to go ahead and take off 1 inch on the lining part. The reason why I'm doing this is because I added 1.5 inches on the hem part already. So for the lining I will take off 1 inch, and what I will have remaining on that lining is 1/2 inch, and that is what I'm going to be using to sew the down part. So the next thing is to go ahead and stitch on the hem part like this, stitch on the hem part. Did you see that? And when you stitch on that hem part, you are going to be taking the lining to meet the waistline, and then you go ahead and sew the slit like this. And when you have done that, you also arrange it well and sew the side seam. You also arrange it well and sew the side seam. So when you sew the hem part, you take the lining to meet with the waistline, and then pin it down, then go ahead and sew the 2 slits, and then sew the 2 side seams. So when I was done, this is what I have, and this is my cape. I've gone ahead to iron it, and this is the front part, this is the back part, and this is the skirt. I've sewn my dart, and this is the back skirt. I've also back part of the skirt. I've also sewn my lining. So I'll go ahead and join the upper part to the down part of the skirt, and for the front part I'll also go ahead and join the upper part to the front part of the skirt. So when I was done, this is what I have. I believe this is very simple for you to understand. So I went ahead to stitch the neckline now. I just stitched the lining and the main fabric together on the front part. So the next thing you want to do is to fold the cape into two to get the midpoint of the cape, and also get the midpoint of the lining of the neckline. Sorry, you get the midpoint of the neckline like so, and then you want to just use your pin and hold it, mash it up like this till you get to the end of the neckline. Use your pin and hold it down till you get to the end of the neckline. So also do the same for the other side as well. So when I've done that, what I will do is that I will use my my scissors and cut at the end, or the end of that neckline. You want to notch around that point, and also, did you see how it's going to be? And also to the end part, you want to notch around this point as well. Did you see? Go ahead and notch around that point, then remove that pin that you used to hold the fabric together like this. Then what you're going to do is that from that notched part, you're going to be flipping the cape to the wrong side. So from the notched part like so, you want to go ahead and sew till you get to the end. Did you see? You go ahead and stitch from the notched part till you get to the one end, and from the other side you are going to be stitching from the notched part till you get to the end of the other cape. Did you see the cape now? Till you get that, you are sewing it on the wrong side. So I've gone ahead to do that for the two sides now. So you want to go ahead and turn it now to the right side. So you just, cut off the excess you have around that point. So with this, you want to turn it to the right side. You can see my own cape came out small because I used 2.5 inches. So if you want your cape to be bigger, use 4.5 inches. So I've turned it to the right side now. Did you see? So that space that is left for me is where I'm going to be joining the cape to the neckline. So you want to now go ahead and join the cape to the neckline like this, facing it on the right side. Now right side facing each other, you want to go ahead and sew the neckline. So this is the back part now. So for the cape now, I'm going to be slitting it into two. So I'm going to be repeating the same process for the front, for the back now. The same thing I did for the front is what I did for the back. Sorry, my camera cut off the part of the back. So what I did is that I attached the cape and I left my space for sewing allowance. I left the space for sewing allowance. And then I went ahead to attach the cape just the way I attached the back, the front part. So sorry about that. My camera cut off the parts, but trust me, it's very simple. Just follow that same process of the front and you will get the back part. So now I will go ahead and attach this. Attach the upper part of the back to the upper, or to the down part of the back. Did you see what I have? So you want to go ahead and place the front to the back like this on the right side, so that you can go ahead and sew it on the side seam. So you want to go ahead, sew it on the side seam. The front should be facing the right side of the front should be facing the right side of the back, and then you go ahead and join the side seam. So after I was done, this is what I will have. So this is what I have after I was done. Did you see that? So the next thing is to go ahead and attach your zipper allowance with the sewing allowance that you have left. So I will go ahead and attach my zipper with the sewing allowance I have. And when I was done, this is what I have. Isn't this beautiful? It came out well. So what you want to do is to keep your cape like this, and then you can ask your client, or you wear it, and then you hold your cape and stitch around this part. Did you see? You hold your cape, the person should be wearing it, or the person should put it on. Then you hold your cape and stitch on this part, so that make sure that the person arm is well seated on the cape part. So you go ahead and stitch around that point. So this is the end of this tutorial. This is how it came out. It came out so beautiful. So if you have watched to this very point, thank you for watching. If you find this video very interesting, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, like, share and subscribe. Thank you all, and see you in my next tutorial. Till then, bye bye.